We're back with more Tapped Out with Brendan Tobin and Sean Levine on the BetQL Network.
Good Saturday evening. Welcome back to the show with my cohort Brendan Tobin, me, the sports machine, Sean Levine. Now let's welcome on good friend of the show. He is Clint MacLean at Die Hard MMA Pod. So, Clint, Alex Pereira goes out there and wins again and knocks another guy out, I guess, again. Did you see his star rising like this? And at this point, he's kind of become one of, if not the cash cow for the promotion, right?
Yeah, what's up, boys? Thank you very much for having me back. And I did not see Alex Pereira rising the way that he has, guys. I am notorious for having bet against him basically in every single title fight that he's had. So I really did not believe in this guy. And I don't mean that I didn't think he was a good fighter. Obviously, he's a world-class kickboxer. But when you transition over to a sport like MMA, there's going to be pieces missing. People usually do not pick up the rest of the sport the way that he has. And then when he jumped up to 205, I did not expect his body to fill out the way that it has. He was a tall, skinny 185er. I didn't think he could push around the big boys up at 205. And he's the biggest guy at that weight class now, too. So everything Pereira's done so far, I did not see coming, and I've been nothing but wrong the whole way.
So where do you stand with him now? Like, have you completely bought in, or will like the skepticism go if he takes on Ankalaev or the heavyweight? Like, what do you think should be next for him, or what would be the challenge that you think would give him the hardest time right now?
John Jones.
Yeah. No, I got to tell you, man, he's made a believer out of me. There's only so much money you can burn against a guy until you finally buy in, right? So I'm definitely going to be on the Alex Pereira train these days. I kind of like him fighting Magomed Ankalaev. Part of that is because, I'll be honest with you, I've never been a Magomed Ankalaev believer either. So I kind of would like to see somebody knock that guy out, end the hype. We can be done with it. But then I would love to see heavyweight like everybody else is talking about. He is getting a bit older, so I would like him to take, at least a couple of months, because these short notice fights, man, he can't keep that up forever. I hope he takes a little bit of time off, hit the reset button, let his body recover. And then no matter what he does next, my TV is going to be on.
Speaking of knockouts, Clint, since the last time we had you on, there was a knockout. You probably heard about it. Max Holloway knocked out Justin Gaethje, the new reigning BMF. What do you think is the fight that makes the most sense next for Max? Because there's a bunch of options.
You know what? It's got to be Topuria. There's no way you have a viral sensation KO like that and then don't go fight for the belt. I'm sorry. Like Max Holloway, if Alexander Volkanovski wasn't here, I'm not convinced Max doesn't still have gold wrapped around his waist. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. He is clear and away the next guy for that title. And I really hope they make that fight, because that is one hell of a fight. Topuria looked incredible. The way he took out Volkanovski was insane. But Max just seems like he's aging like fine wine. He's out there doing it and beating guys he's not supposed to, even with how long he's been in this sport. That's a great fight. That's the one I want next.
Yeah, I hate betting against Max Holloway, but I'm very curious. What do you think the odds would look like for a fight like that? Because I feel like between Max's popularity, his viral knockout, and Topuria being on the run, like it's as close to picking as it feels like it could. Do you lean one way or the other?
Yeah, I think the line would be probably somewhere around pick'em. I'll bet you it'd be kind of a sharp and square divide. I'll bet you the sharps come in on Topuria and the public comes in on Max. One's got a viral moment. Even though Topuria just knocked out the former GOAT, the former pound for pound king, people have short memories. So that one I'll shelve just a little bit. I would kind of lean towards Max Holloway in this spot just because of the height, the reach, the length. He is a little hittable, and that's a problem with a guy that hits as hard as Ilia Topuria does. Nobody has ever deaded the champ the way we saw him take out Volkanovski.
Yeah.
And that's terrifying. At that weight class, if you can hit that hard, Max is durable as all get out. But let's not forget, in his last fight, yes, it was up at 155, but he got dropped for the first time in his career. So you don't want to make too much out of that, but you also can't ignore it. You know what I mean? So if there was anybody who was ever going to knock out Max Holloway, it'd be a guy like Ilia.
Yeah, Ilia is kind of like in the same round with you that was Pereira. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't want to be a hater on him, but I'm not sure yet if I'm ready to say, like, this guy is amongst the class. Like, did he take out Volkanovski? He was a little long in the tooth. He built a Bryce Mitchell on last minute. So, like, Has he had a sweet ride, or does he actually have the goods? That's what I'm kind of wondering. And with Max, I just feel like he's so damn savvy as a striker, Clint.
Yeah.
I just feel like he's going to take the young pup to school in that case. Like, listen, everybody can get God, but I just feel like Max has got like a whole different set when it comes to if you're going to get into a stand-up fight with him. That's a dangerous game.
Absolutely. And on top of that, you heard Volkanovski after the fight, and he was like, I went about that all wrong. You know, he said if they ran it back, he would have a completely different strategy. He would handle that fight a completely different way. And I do think that Ilya Topuria caught Volkanovski at the right time. Not trying to discredit him, don't want to take anything away from him, but he had just gotten knocked out by the champion up at 155 pounds. And he also is a guy who's not used to being KO'd. He also was a guy that was taking a bunch of really short notice fights with quick turnarounds, not letting his body heal or recover. For an older guy, that kind of stuff just adds up. And on top of that, Volkanovski was not following the normal Volkanovski game plan. You know, stick, move, leg kick, come forward, pressure your opponent. He looked like he was a deer in the headlights that night. He got hit once and was like, nope, I'm going to back up and get out of here. And it just did not pan out well for him. So I wouldn't mind watching those two run that fight back. I think Volkanovski's live against everybody, obviously, but the height and the reach of a guy like Max Holloway, I think, will pose a different set of problems for Ilya. So it's going to be a fun puzzle for both guys. It's just going to be maybe the best fight the UFC can put on right now, if I'm being honest.
It's fun talking fighting with you, man. Clint MacLean joining us here on the BetQL network. Last week was obviously supposed to be Conor versus Chandler. It sucks we didn't get that. If you're Michael Chandler, how long do you wait? Because at this point, I can't even remember. It's been like a year and a half, 2 years since that first fight, since the McGregor fight was kind of first put out there. It's been delayed. We've had a whole season of The Ultimate Fighter. We've now had a card they were supposed to be on. Do you just wait it out until it happens?
Chandler's got Stockholm syndrome, man. At this point, I'm convinced. Like, he just is he's held captive right now by Conor McGregor. No, you got to move on, man. At a certain point, you've got to move on. And frankly, guys, I hate to pour cold water on this conversation, but I have been saying for the last 2 years now, I don't think Conor's ever fighting again, guys. I am not going to be convinced that Conor McGregor is fighting in the UFC until the cage door is locked behind him. I just don't think it's happening.
Then why mess with all this? I mean, it's not like he's trying to get more famous or more money or the belt.
You're adorable.
He's had all those things.
Like, you're adorable, Sean. The famous love fame, dude. What do you mean he doesn't want to get more famous? The famous love fame.
What if he goes in there and gets his ass knocked out again, like we've seen happen to him now? That's what would happen, by the way. That's where my
and that's why he's not going back in there.
That's the game. That's the game.
We came full circle on this. Let's say the fight does happen for the sake of this conversation. Tell me if I'm wrong. I would empty my piggy bank, Clint, on Michael Chandler to knock him out violently through the side of the cage.
Man, I've got a very smart person who I very much respect that had a bet locked in on Michael Chandler, and it's been sitting locked up by the bookies since they made this fight in the first place.
Son of a bitch.
I don't blame you for taking that route. I really don't. Guys, I really think that this is the UFC going, look, we're going to find the most relevant, easiest fight on the roster because Conor McGregor win is all that matters. So yes, is he shot? Absolutely. Is he the same guy he was before? Absolutely not. But is the UFC also doing their damnedest to get this guy a win? Yes, they are. So it's the one fight that he's got a fair shake at. You know, Chandler's not a leg kick guy, so you don't have to worry so much about those shins. Chandler's primarily a boxer. Well, I think Conor's probably got better hands than he does, and he's also going to be basically a 170-pounder by the time they fight. Conor's massive these days. 3 years of straight steroids will do that to you. So I kind of feel like Conor wins the fight, man. I'll be honest with you. Like, Chandler's built more for war these days than Conor is, but I'm not sure Chandler can take a punch from Conor if he lands one of those nuclear left hands on him. So it's a pick 'em for a reason, man. That fight has so many questions around it. My money will not be involved if those two ever actually do meet. But honestly, I think Conor's trying to sell BKFC tickets these days by trying to keep his name in the headlines.
He is good at that. I'll give him. He's a hell of an ambassador for bare knuckle. I'm not gonna bring this up just because I'm bitter that it ruined my parlay last week, but I feel like MVP got screwed in that Ian Gary fight.
Yeah, he did.
What do you make of Ian Gary right now, Clint? Like, what? You know, I thought this guy was going to be one of the bright stars, and now I feel like I don't know if he's somewhere almost between Bilal Muhammad and Leon Edwards. Like, I just don't feel like he's hit the spark that he probably should. What do you make of him? Do Do you think that he's playing it safe? Do you feel like there's another level for him? What is the ceiling for Ian Gary?
You know what? I am not sure what the ceiling for Ian Gary is just yet, but I'll tell you guys something. We haven't seen it. This kid has got raw talent. He's got a great frame for the weight class. He's training with a champion in Charles Oliveira at an incredible gym that can really bring those kind of skills and talents out of you, that can teach him a new thing or two. And every time we've seen him in the cage, guys, we've seen a new evolution to his game. So I know he's everybody's favorite punching bag online right now. I know everybody wants to hate this guy, but the UFC is really bringing him along McGregor style. They're not doing a Darren Till to this kid and throwing him to the wolves and letting him get knocked out and, giving him a win that he doesn't deserve to get to a title shot. They're bringing him along slowly. They're bringing him along the right way. This kid found himself ranked too highly. And what did the UFC do? They didn't fight against Shavkat. They found a dude from Bellator that he could get the win over, and they let him punch down instead of taking another step towards the top because they realized he ain't ready yet. But what he did do is go out there against a lifelong MMA veteran, a respected and dangerous fighter, and he found a way to win. I know a lot of people hate the way that fight went, but when you find these kids that find a way to win, that's all that matters. It's special, it's important, and that means he knows what he's doing. He's using his thinker. Guys, he's going to get matched up with somebody that everybody looks at and goes, oh, this is the one. This is the one. I know I didn't cash my MVP ticket, but this is the guy. Mark my words, when that fight finally comes to fruition, Gary will have leveled up. Gary will be ready. Don't bet against Ian Gary in his next fight. He's going to win it.
That kind of confidence, bro. There's no way I can. And for the record, I'm a dumbass. I used to bet on Darren Till. Like, even when he lost to Tyron Woodley, I was like, yeah, I'm good. I'll bet on him again. I kept doing it and kept losing my money. One last one. Clint MacLean at Die Hard MMA Pod joining us here on the BetQL Network, and then we'll get you out of here. What current champion do you think holds their belt the longest? And on the flip side of that, what current champion do you think is most likely to lose here relatively soon?
Islam Makhachev is going to keep his belt the longest. And reason being for that is because the UFC is trying to feed him guys like Michael Chandler. They are desperate for Islam to keep that belt, guys. A lot of people don't. Everyone wants to talk about Islam being pound for pound king right now, right? But let's not forget, he's defended his belt against more 45ers than 55ers. The guy has yet to face a real challenge. Yes, Dustin Poirier is the man. We all absolutely love him, but he's had a long career. He's ready to hang it up, and the UFC gave that guy to Islam Makhachev, a guy that Khabib, who trains and teaches Islam everything he knows, a guy who knows the exact playbook for beating that guy. And then he fought twice against, yes, one of the best fighters of all time, but a man who he has a 30-pound weight advantage on. The one time when it was a serious fight where they both had training camps, that fight should have gone to Volkanovski. I will die on that hill that Volk won that fight the first time. And
Yes.
when they rematched, they gave Volk 1 week off the couch to do it. So of course he ends that fight with a thunderous head kick. Volk wasn't ready for that fight, guys. They want to talk about this guy being pound for pound best. Frankly, I think he's a fraud. But now the UFC is trying to match him up with the guy they were trying to give Conor McGregor. Why? Because he'll whoop his ass. They're not going to give him a real threat. They're not going to run it back with Charles Oliveira because that's dangerous. So I think Islam is going to probably sit on that belt for quite some time. Now, as far as UFC fighters or champions who are going to lose their belts relatively quickly, I think it's Leon Edwards.
Yeah.
Leon Edwards is going to lose that belt, and if it's not this time, it's next time. I think Bilal Muhammad is a terrible matchup for him. I am so happy that they're running that fight back. I know everybody thinks that Leon dusted him, but guys, watch the fight. Like, the only reason it got stopped is because the literal worst eye poke in UFC history.
It was nasty.
That fight off. We all love Rocky's head kick, right? I mean, there was the legendary comeback in round 5 for him to win the belt.
Come on,
in the first
Rocky.
place.
Come on, Rock.
Yeah. So that's a beautiful moment. That was an epic comeback. It was awesome. Bilal Muhammad ate that head kick. And he said, thank you, I have some more. And he kept coming forward. The dude's a beast. I actually think Bilal stands a pretty good chance to upset Leon Edwards in their next fight. And if he doesn't do it, Shavkat's coming right down the pipe. Shavkat is bigger. He's scarier. He wears dead animals on his head. Shavkat's going to take the belt from Leon Edwards if Bilal doesn't.
I used to call it a rat hat for the longest time when I offended BT. So I
It's
stopped
disrespectful. It's a fox. I don't
whatever it is, it looks like it's a rat. Clint, you're so good, dude. Guys, he's so good that he's wearing a paper mache hat right now made out of actual $100 bills. That's how much money he makes. So listen to what he's talking about. Thanks for your time, man. We got to get you on soon.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for having me.